Joining me now is Behnam Ben Taleblu. He's a senior Iran analyst with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Nice to have you with us, Behnam. And one of Iran's demands, as we discussed, is that European powers promise to not seek new negotiations on Iran's ballistic missile program and its destabilizing activities in the Middle East. And this, as a secret ballistic missile facility has now been discovered. How do you see the Europeans responding to this?
Well, good to be with you. The Europeans are really stuck between a rock and a hard place. They definitely fear the secondary sanctions that the U.S. will be reimposing and reinforcing at the latest by November. We know that massive multinational European firms have been exiting Iran or signaling that absent a waiver, they would have to wind down their operations. But Europe is also trying to keep Iran within the parameters of the JCPOA nuclear deal and prepare itself for another meeting of the Joint Commission, I believe, on May 25th, to address the U.S. withdrawal and find a way to make itself responsible for keeping the deal.
Well, Behnam, if you look at this evidence, though, it suggested that Iran could be ready to develop an intercontinental ballistic missile within roughly a decade, and that's just in time for the sunset clause provisions in the Iran nuclear deal to expire. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that Iran violates the terms of the deal, because one of the major flaws, as we know, is that it didn't include missile programs. But this does bolster the Trump argument that Iran is still looking to become a nuclear weapons program and that the deal at best just delays this. Now, when the Europeans were trying to convince President Trump to stay in the deal, they made it clear that they realized that the missile program is problematic, and there was talk of supplementary sanctions to the deal. Are the Europeans just going to dismiss all of this now and abandon those sanctions?
I really hope Europe doesn't, and even then it took a lot of diplomatic pressure to get Europe to be at least discussing only 15 designations. That's nothing. Both President Obama and President Trump combined since the deal have issued at least 75, 74 designations on counter-proliferation measures alone since January 2016, not to mention terrorism or human rights or any of the other threats that we face. But listen, that New York Times report is explosive. It should not be minimalized. It should be used in discussions with the Europeans to point out that secret second facility, to say that Iran is interested in having missiles that go beyond 2,000 kilometers. Iran's missile program today is a regional threat. Tomorrow, it could be a global threat. And as you mentioned, one of the fatal flaws of the deal was leaving the missile threat unanswered. And that article has deal proponents actually saying that the missile threat will be a problem and that they underestimated Iran's missile capabilities. This is an explosive report and should be used to unite the West in a renewed pressure campaign against Iran.
So is this missile facility on the list of the sites that are open for inspection, those limited inspections under the Iran deal? Do you see inspectors now being allowed to go check it out?
Most unfortunately not. What the nuclear deal, the JCPOA, actually did provide was access to declared facilities where there is nuclear material. Iran gives these facilities to the IAEA in advance. Then they get to inspect them. They get to have some snap inspections. They get to have control or they get to view Iran's nuclear supply chain. But they did not get to view any military facilities. And the IAEA was timid since they started implementing the deal and to date has not asked to view another military site. This explosive New York Times report is proof that they need to ask for access to these facilities as soon as possible.
Well, do you see that happening? Do you see inspectors being allowed in there if they now ask for it?
Most unfortunately not, but that should actually unite the West into a new pressure campaign to get Iran to renegotiate the deal, to come back to the table, to actually come forward with a framework of being able to verify what elements it needs for its legitimate national defense and what it does not need and what it needs to cease doing to have sanctions relief.
Yeah, you would think that it would unite the West against the deal. Let's see what develops. Behnam Ben Taleblu, always good to have you on the program. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's a pleasure.